Agenda is a discussion to rescind, vote if necessary, amend prior motions, approving a transfer of $28,246.40. Before we do anything of rescinding or anything of that, I will mention that Chris has presented a request for a transfer in the amount of $28,246.40, not from the contingency fund, but from a fringe benefits and pension fund. And that is, I believe, under the selectmen's budget.
It's not the selectmen's department.
But
It's under general,
it's under general government.
so overall, part of the selectmen.
And we roughly fund that account how much a year?
$115,000.
We roughly funded that account $915,000 this year. We did a run rate this morning. We believe that account will roughly have $70,000 to $80,000 to the good, meaning a surplus, by the time we hit June 30th. So Norm had asked her, so there is a transfer on the table, and we can act upon that transfer, but let's discuss the difference between a rescind, a reconsider, or amend. Well, Mike, we're in meeting. One thing we will have to do is if we do want to take it out of the fringe benefits and pension account, we obviously have to amend the motion 100%. That has to happen, because right now we have it coming out of contingency. They have scheduled the town meeting in a week. We can do nothing and hope that it passes and Chris gets a paycheck once it passes. Under good faith, well, I'll say it, I don't know if that's the best avenue, but again, I'm just one board member. So the floor is open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, do you have a recommendation?
Do I have a recommendation? I do. The recommendation would be to transfer from the fringe benefits and pension account into the selectmen's salary and wages account.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Well,
And then we can cancel it?
oh, you know, and I apologize, but Chris, you are a member of this as first selectman. Can the Board of Selectmen cancel a town meeting that's already been called?
Yes.
Okay, I'm unaware of that. So we wouldn't be double funding the salary and wages account.
No such luck.
Okay, no such. Mike, does that answer your question? Okay. Any other? John, did that answer? It's an excellent question.
Mr. Chairman, if I might,
Okay.
Attorney Carl Andalina.
He is our town attorney.
I assume that the motion you're referring to is the motion you made a few weeks ago to recommend the approval of the transfer to town meeting.
Correct.
That meeting took place, the motion is not on the floor, there's nothing to amend or rescind. You've acted on that,
Okay.
there's nothing to act on. So what you need, if you want to make this transfer, is an entirely new motion, which I think I heard somebody make the motion to do that. So it's a new motion, the other motion has been either acted on or not acted on, it's not on the table, you don't have to do anything with respect to that motion. And with respect to what Mr. Purvick said, he can, in fact, the Board of Selectmen can cancel the town meeting. They don't have to go forward, they'll have to put some kind of notice on the website or otherwise to inform people. But it's appropriate for you, if you want to make that motion, to make an entirely new motion. And if I could, just, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I've been representing towns and boards for 30 years. And the issue you're grappling with now is the most confusing and complicated issue that every town goes through. The push and pull between two specific statutes, but if you read them together, you would say they are diametrically opposed to each other, even though they fall right next to each other in the statute. One says you can make, the Board of Selectmen, or excuse me, the Board of Finance can make transfers from appropriated items. It doesn't use the word without limitation, but that's the import of the statute. The very next section of the statute says, oh, if you take money from certain places and you go over $10,000, you need a town meeting. There are also cases which talk about whether or not those statutes trump what's in your charter, or whether your charter can trump what's in the statute. Those are very complicated cases. So, and I've represented charter revision commissions many, many times. The last time was last summer in the town of Woodbury, and they grappled with this particular issue, the push and pull between the statutes and what they wanted in the charter, what I suggested. Matter of fact, one night I got a call from the head of the Charter Revision Commission yelling at me for something, and 10 minutes later I got a call from the chair, the first selectman yelling at me for the exact opposite thing. So neither one of them liked what I had to say, and I expect that if you ask me for an opinion and I write something to you, you may have the same reaction, I don't know. But in any event, there is no motion on the floor until you make a motion and someone seconded it, but the previous motions are of no import at this point.
Thank you. Just to be clear, since we have you, and you opened, and you sat down.
I only came up because I was stating.
Time limit.
That's all right, so we like that. So, Michael, all right, so there's a lot of people with stopwatches out there, heard them all going on. And Chris, I'm not stepping on any of your toes. Will you please issue a formal opinion on that 805C?
Well, I'll have to look at all the sections. I can't look
Okay.
at one and cherry pick it and say it means that they all have to work together
Okay.
in a reasonable way. So I will certainly do that.
And I don't know if we want to meet with everybody and you know,
I'll do
Board
it
of
whenever
Finance
you want me to
meeting.
come back and have a
Okay.
conversation with you about, you know, because every charter is different. The statutes are the same, but every charter is different. So, you know, opinion one time may be totally opposed to what I might write for another time. But again, it's a very complicated issue, and not surprised that you can have 15 different opinions on it. It's that kind of thing, especially when the statutes in this particular section are not as clear as they could be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So we heard from our town attorney that we will need to make a new motion, and pretty much the other motion will fall off, and Chris will, Board of Selectmen will cancel their town meeting. We won't double fund that salary account. Dennis, did you make a, well, he asked me what I would recommend.
I made, yeah, but then I.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What was the name of that account?
I will tell you, it's Fringe Benefits and Pension, and it's account 134-163.
1341.
63.
Make a motion that the amount of money needed to $28,246.40 be transferred from account 134-163 to settle this issue.
Second. We have a first and a second. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Yes.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. This is the original. Don't everybody leave. If you want, you can. Next item is to discuss and vote for the Board of Finance to engage and retain independent legal counsel for any other persons authorizing expenditure up to $9,500. Does this board wish to talk about the item is on the agenda? We can talk about it. If you feel that. I bring it up because it's on the agenda.
Let's let our town attorney track at it and see covers all the issues that we can see. And my recommendation would be, we don't do anything now, but that doesn't mean we can't revisit it based upon whatever comes back to us. I'm sure that it covers all of that.
Go ahead, Norm.
Is he going to be looking at the time being for vacation in the
Excuse me, we can't hear a word you're saying.
Can't hear anything.
Can't hear anything, guys.
Nothing.
Is he going to be looking at? Leave it there. Is he going to be looking at just the pay for the $10,000, or is he also going to be looking at how we are paying the vacation portion of those salaries out for time served and when that time is finished?
presently what, in what I believe, that I had just asked the town attorney was to look at basically the whole 800 section and tell us, in his opinion, how we should act when something comes in as in a $10,000 line item, or a transfer that is not appropriate. So, to your question, he won't be looking at, and I think you're asking, was Steve paid X and Y?
There was discussion before about time for vacations being paid out and the time frame in which it was paid out. I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same track, that all Carl's gonna be looking at is charter stuff, and that our HR people will be looking at the vacation and the time frame in which they are paid out.
Right, and I think Chris and the Board of Selectmen talked about that one of your meetings.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, yes, we've already undertaken that process. I think the very first thing I said at the first meeting that I brought this issue to you is, I'm not comfortable with this provision as it stands, and we're already taking steps on the Board of Selectmen to see if we can change it, so that we don't keep facing these liabilities time after time after time. So, yes, to answer your question, we've already undertaken that process. Both Selectman Balboni and Selectman Hill have agreed to work hard on that in conjunction with our human resources staff, town councils. We need to see if there's any way to change it to save us money in the future.
Thank you, Chris. Good. Does anybody wish to act upon number 7? Not hearing any, we can move on to number 8, which basically is, we won't act on any of the other ones, but I think we're good there. Public input. And again, same rules apply. 2 minutes, stopwatch is going on. Mr. Bracken, come on up. You gotta come in the seat.
Have to see your name and your address.
Mike Bracken, AKA 4 Volunteer Drive, Windsor Locks. Just one quick thing it is, we're talking about Denise and Michelle working on the proposal with Human Resources on the issues pertaining to employees and the time. And obviously, when you're talking about working on it with an attorney, I assume it's going to be a labor attorney. And my question is that it was my understanding that the labor attorney right now was on a temporary holding pattern because the town hasn't renewed his contract yet. And it's my suggestion that they give him the boot because Enfield has already gotten rid of him because of all the mistakes that he's made.
Hey, Mike, we appreciate your comments, but it's Board of Finance, and I gotta be honest with you, that's on a Board of Selectmen level. We have no jurisdiction over a town attorney, so they meet, and you know, the Board of Selectmen.
That's fine.
But thank you. Any other public input? Mr. Forcino. Is that why you guys sat in the front tonight? Easy to get up to that chair?
I always sit in the front. I just want to clarify something. The town meeting is canceled, so we're saying that the board has the right, the finance board, to put the $28,000 in transfer without going to a town meeting. So that's what the decision is, correct?
That was the action that was taken tonight. I will say one other thing. When we looked at this, Chris and I, for the last 4 days, and my head's been filled with stuff, and I spoke upon, we had to look at what we've done in the past. And by what I'm not just talking Chris and I, because we're new in our roles over the last 3 months. What did other Board of Finances do in the past? And, well, I'm just gonna come right out and say it though. Back on May 13th, 2014, Paul Harrington made a motion to approve a transfer of $40,000 from contingency and $10,000 from account 1292 inventory for a total of $50,000 to salary and wages account. Conor Leary seconded the motion. All were in favor. The vote was 6-0 and the motion was approved. And what that is, Mike, I will stop your time, by the way, because I do want to answer your question, and I do think openness is, and what that was is our former finance director retired, and she had sick and vacation time. And that was just one example of what prior boards have done. Now, I was unaware that I made that motion. I'm sorry?
There was no town meeting.
Oh, and there's no, well, I thought that was clear by how I read it, but, as our first selectman pointed out, there was no town meeting. So, we're in a situation where, what do? Now, we have asked, and everybody was here tonight, we have asked the town attorney to make a ruling on what do we do in a situation like this? Does it need to go to town meeting? Does it not? Does the Board of Finance have the authority to transfer money above $10,000? We're gonna get a ruling. And it was said, both Board of Selectmen and we might not like the ruling, but we're gonna get one.
Well, just to finish my time, I don't care what the ruling is.
Okay.
I will abide by any ruling that's given. I mean, I will fight anything that I feel is wrong, okay? I'll say my piece. It doesn't mean I'm right all the time, but I'm gonna fight for what I feel is right. And if you can explain something, that's fine and dandy with me. I still disagree with what's going on. What I wanna find out is the selectman or any elected official who gets paid by the town, a town employee or not? If not, they must have a contract, okay? Because they go by the handbook or they don't go by the handbook. That has gotta be determined. You know, because we really have nothing to go on as taxpayers in this town, where there's no sense in going to any more of these meetings to take the votes, because if you're gonna keep on, if you take a vote and win the vote, you're gonna keep on bringing it back until it changes. I think that is wrong. That's my opinion. Right or wrong, it's my opinion. But I appreciate your time, and, no problem.
Thank you. Any other public input? All right, definitely.
Dean Lambert, 11 Copper Drive, West Bullocks. I want to say thank you, guys. You guys, during the last budget, it was really a tough one. And you felt you needed to do a referendum, and you did a referendum, right or wrong. You did that because you thought you needed to save more money. Mr. Curtis did the same thing here. He didn't want to spend any more money. This needed to be done, and that's the way it needed to be done. Whether we like the former selectman or not, that has nothing to do with it. It was time earned, and that's the way it works. I'm glad we're not doing it, well, we're gonna hold off, as you put it, on the attorney fees. I don't understand, when you guys have a mindset of trying to save money, you're willing to go and spend more money. I just don't understand that. Because I do appreciate everything you guys do. And I want to say thank you. You did the right thing tonight. Thank you. You know.
Thank you. Yes, in the back.
Hi, Michael Stephen Kostyuk, 13 Pine Drive. I want to thank everyone for coming out and supporting either one way or another. I think it's really important that town residents stay as informed as they can on these matters and be able to provide their input. I also believe that if the Board of Finance was considering using the amount of money they were going to use on an attorney, that perhaps I'd like to make a suggestion that if they want to use that money, that they use it to have the attorney continue to look at the charter, the statutes, if necessary, work with human resources. The crux of this problem is we have some sort of policy that I don't completely understand that's led to this issue. Find a way to revise this policy so that it doesn't happen again, so that there's not animosity between the Board of Finance, the First Selectman, anyone in the town government, and even the residents of the town having differing opinions, because we'll have a process that's set, whatever it takes, and I applaud you, gentlemen and lady on the Board of Finance and the First Selectman for taking the extra time to work this problem out to the best of the ability and for the benefit of the town, its residents, the former First Selectman, just everyone involved.
Thank you. Russo.
I'll be brief.
We're ready.
Russo, 407 Elm Drive. I've been a critic of our town government for quite some time. And again, I would like to thank everybody tonight for being involved in the democratic process. The reason that we find ourselves here is because board and commission meetings are not well attended. Obviously, this particular issue was important enough to have this turnout. It is our obligation as a democratic society to be involved. I would like to see more attendance at more board, more commission meetings. I think it's healthy for the town. You have an idea where the town is going. And again, I commend the Board of Finance for trying to bring some discipline, I guess, back to the budgeting process. For years, it's been, let's have a board meeting, let's adjourn into a town meeting, motion, pass, and it's a done deal. There's been about 30 people making decisions for everybody here for years. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public input? Once? Twice? All right. Chairman's input, which also is any board members' input. Does anyone on the board have anything they'd like to say?
Just, I hope that, I'm not original on this tonight, but I hope that people here stay involved in the budget so you know what's going on. You give your input before it's time to vote. You know, come back again.
We start next week, February 9th. We meet every Tuesday and Wednesday.
And it's
We go late.
It's a really good way to find out what the various boards and commissions are doing and what they plan to do.
Any other board member?
Yes, just want to thank everybody for coming out. This is a really important issue to work through, so thanks for coming out.
Stole one.
Oh, that's right. What are you doing, Jack?
I also want to thank everybody for coming out. I know it was a difficult issue, but this does show that when people sit down and talk, that you can resolve an issue, and I believe that's what has happened here tonight. With that said, I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.